if chess didn't exist, where would you be? Go. And I was like, jail. The regime is the problem. Otherwise, it's not, I mean, it's not the Iran food or Iran people, it's the regime that's the problem.
How are you with people?
Oh, people love me. You know, that hijab police or Gesh Dershad or whatever, morality police, whatever they want to call it, those are terrifying, scary, wild, like, it's something that shouldn't happen. I think, yeah, if the human rights and women's rights are reinstated, it would be a pleasure to go back.
Well, hi there. Welcome to episode 366 of Roqe. I'm Jian Gomeshi. And a quick message to start this show said with little fuss. Dogs are better than us. Dogs are better than us. This week, my little Frenchie Oogie turned 7. Now, there are souls on this earth who've never really known a dog, who've never been chosen by one, truly chosen, never felt the silent ceremony of a dog resting his head on your knee, as if to say, you are my person, just as you are. Some think dogs are just pets, accessories with fur, but those of us who know, really know, understand they are emissaries of a higher order. They don't talk, but they tell. They don't preach, but they teach. And in their eyes, no judgment, no spin, no hidden agenda, just trust. They are best friends plus. Dogs are better than us. And so this week, Oogie turns 7 years of flat-faced joy, of piggy snores sent straight from heaven. We met when he was just 8 weeks small, all paws and promise and pugilistic grace. And he's been with me through every rise, every fall, a warm little Buddha with a snub-nosed face. He's never once judged my worst day. He doesn't care if I win or stray. He greets each guest like royalty and every friend like gold. In a world gone cold, he is bold and pure and old soul told. He doesn't pretend, doesn't posture, doesn't bluff. He simply loves. Dogs are better than us. Oh, the writers knew. Lord Byron inscribed it on a tomb. Near this spot lies one who possessed beauty without vanity, strength without insolence, all the virtues of man without his vices. And if you think that's poetic license, you've never been nuzzled at your lowest by a creature who doesn't speak your language but gets the moment better than a therapist. Virginia Woolf once mused that a dog has the rare gift of making you feel not alone in the world as it shifts. Even Nietzsche, ever the bleak prophet, was a canine stan. The dog, he wrote, would be man's ideal if he were not man. Touché. Or as Oogie might say, with a snort and a snuggle, that's right, dude. No ego, no drama, no fuss. Let's face it. Dogs are better than us. They are sages in fur coats, professors of presence. They ask for nothing but your time, your trust, your crumbs, and in return, they offer more consistency than most people offer their own moms. They know your scent, your secrets, your shades, and they wait by the door not for what you bring, but for you in your truest, stripped-back form. They know you by heart, not by uniform. And when the world turns fake or fickle or rough, they lean in with eyes that say, I see you, and that's enough. Because dogs are better than us. So happy birthday to my brilliant little boy, to my zany, snoring, slightly cross-eyed joy, to the one who reminds me each day to approach life with compassion, with curiosity, with wagging delight. He's never asked for applause. He just gives love with noble paws. He's taught me that loyalty isn't loud, it's quietly brave, that grace is found in muddy paws, and the way he forgives before I even misbehave. Oogie, thank you for showing me how to be more kind, more true, more trust, more just. I'm trying to be better, but for now, concede with trust. Dogs are better than us. It's April 3rd, 2025. This is Roqe. Well, hi there. Welcome to episode 366 of Roqe. I'm Jian Gomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto. Hello to you from Canada. Salam Dostan Aziz. Durud Bashum. I hope you're doing well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Dorsa Derakhshani joining me for a feature interview today. The chess master, the women's champion, the international champion, the Asian Games champion. She was, by the time she was a teenager, a chess master. And then famously did not, or perhaps infamously, depending on your position, opted to not wear a hijab at a certain competition in defiance of the dictates of the Iranian regime, and therefore was banned from playing with and for the Iranian national team. Moved to the United States. She's now in St. Louis. She's actually pursuing a medical degree and career, but still plays chess and is still one of the best in the world. A remarkable story and a remarkable woman. And we're going to get into the mindset of the chess master. At least I hope to learn something from Dorsa Derakhshani, joining me from the St. Louis, Missouri area in the States in just a few moments. We'll get to her. I had to start this week with an ode to Oogie, my French bulldog, the love of my life, the only person who's loved me unconditionally in my life. Super P, you know. Hello, Oogie. You are familiar with the Oogster.
Of course.
And you know his heart. He's
the best.
He kind of is the best. I mean, he's a really, really lovely dog. And it's been 7 years. My life flashes before my eyes because he was like a little baby this big when I got him. And as pretty much a single dad that entire time, we've been together almost exclusively. He has a couple of aunties and he has one uncle that he spends time with when I'm away. But other than that, it's just been me and Oogie and his snoring and my snoring. Put us in the same room, and it's a cacophony. I love Oogie so much, and he can be so annoying sometimes because he always wants attention. He wants to give you his love. He's actually a certified therapy dog, so if anybody's upset around him, he'll come and try and take care of you. I can't get enough of him, and I can't even conceive of him getting older. I know they do the translations of what 7 years in dog years is in human years, and I can't even think about that. He's just my little boy. And really, I took care of a dog once who had already grown up. So he's really the only animal that I've had that long since he was a baby. Super P, did you ever have any pets in Iran?
I did not.
Yeah.
Because my mom had OCD. Still has.
My
OCD.
mom has. Actually, I have OCD,
yes.
as you know, and
yes.
I can't handle even an Oogie. When I got Oogie as a French bulldog, the breeders were like, "Oh, they don't shed. They totally shed. It's like little hairs,
shed,
but
yeah.
And it drives me nuts. But I run around with a vacuum cleaner and like my mother, OCD. Although my mom now loves Oogie so much as well, so we put up with some of the mess. But I think, for the most part, the only pets I had hamsters for a while. Are hamsters a thing in Iran?
Yes.
Right.
I didn't know that about you.
I had hamsters, and actually, it's a kind of a funny story of like the first hamster I got was, this is like, steel yourself. This is a horrible story. It's a tragic story. The first hamster I got was an albino hamster, like a white hamster with pink eyes and a pink tail. And I guess he wasn't like he had been trained, or he wasn't like a baby or something like that. And so he was already really, really friendly and really loving. And
Wait,
I called him Herbie.
They train hamsters?
Of course. Well, of course. You train. I mean, a hamster becomes acclimatized to being with a human. So they'll come on your, when it's a baby, it doesn't know that it can walk on your hand and love you and look for food and things like that. So Herbie was already friendly pet, and I loved Herbie so much, and we brought him home, and it was like the joy of my life. And then after about 6 or 7 it's a terrible story, after about 6 or 7 days, Herbie kind of stopped moving.
Oh no.
And then Herbie had like a heart attack.
Oh no.
Yeah, and Herbie died after like a week. And there's this like epic scene from my childhood. I mean, I think I was like 12 or something, and I'm in the hallway, like crying hysterically with Herbie like on the ground in front of me with his paws up in the air like dead. And then we discovered that I had this little tube that where the water comes down to his cage, and it hadn't been working.
Oh,
so
no.
Herbie basically so Herbie couldn't drink water for a week. I mean, the animals was, you know, what do you call it? I guess not starved.
That's
but
a horrible story.
Isn't that a horrible story?
It's horrible.
And it's so horrible. Like I killed Herbie unwittingly.
Oh,
You know, I committed
no.
murder because Herbie didn't have drink enough water. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but there was definitely an issue with the water. And Herbie.
Okay, I have to say something too.
What?
Once I had a cat.
And you forgot to feed it water.
No, I don't know what happened, but he just died after a month.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
And Herbie was my first, like, other than like goldfish and stuff, my first real pet too. I never got over it. So then we got a couple of other hamsters after it, and I named them Herbie. You know.
And you killed all of them?
And they also they died. Yeah. But after a little longer, like 6 months or something, I don't know. But then I got this hamster Nibbles, and Nibbles lasted for a long time, like a few years. But Nibbles, then I was like a classic teenager, because Nibbles, I loved him for about 3 weeks and played with him and stuff. And then I shouldn't let Oogie hear this. Oogie's in the other room. Hopefully Oogie would gonoh dare. Oogie. But then I kind of lost interest in Nibbles, you know? Like I was 14 and I was like playing music and whatever. And
Oh my God.
so Nibbles started to become kind of the caretakers of Nibbles became my mom and dad, who would like feed Nibbles and make sure Nibbles was okay, because I'd be off, you know, doing whatever I'm doing.
Horrible story.
Is
Why
that
why did you start the episode with this?
Torturing these hamsters. Well, I started the episode with an ode to Oogie, but you know,
Of course.
then
but
I don't know why I'm telling these stories about Herbie the hamster who died after a week out of malnutrition and being unable to drink water. Poor Herbie. You know, in truth, I think Herbie was old and his time had come. I don't think but do you remember the story when you would have still been in Iran, Super P, when Dorsa Derakhshani was banned from playing chess, this amazing, incredible chess master, because she decided not to wear the hijab. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember the first photo that they I don't know, like not newspapers, sorry, because I was in Iran, but like okay, can I start this again?
No.
All right.
Don't start. You can't start anything again.
I
Keep going.
cannot. I have problems.
No, you were doing fine.
Okay. Yeah.
You remember seeing a picture of her?
I remember seeing a picture of her, like the first picture that, I don't know, like BBC. I think we didn't have Iran International at that time, or maybe we had. I don't know, but I remember that photo went viral and it was just everywhere. You know?
Yeah. You remember Roqe Roham? Remember Dorsa when?
Not exactly Dorsa, but I remember the situation.
Yeah, that there was this female chess player that, and then there's been a series of them, like people who've been banned or exiled or whatever. I'll ask her about that too. It's a remarkable story. She is remarkable. I'm happy to get to meet her, if virtually in this interview. Let's get to it. Let's get to our feature guest. Here we go. All right, my guest today was a chess prodigy before she was even a teenager. Born and raised in Tehran, Dorsa Derakhshani quickly rose through the ranks of competitive chess, earning the titles of Women's Grandmaster and International Master, along with multiple gold medals at the Asian Youth Chess Championships. At 19, she made a move that changed the course of her life. After defying Iran's mandatory hijab rule at a tournament, Dorsa found herself banned from playing for Iran. You may remember the story. She moved to the United States, started a new chapter by representing the U.S. Her journey has been widely recognized, with some calling her a real-life Queen's Gambit, but her story is uniquely her own, one of resilience, determination, and breaking barriers. She's now a medical student at the University of Missouri, working toward a career in surgery, and right now, Dorsa Derakhshani joins me from somewhere in Missouri. Hello.
Hi.
Where?
Yeah, I'm in Colombia.
Columbia, Missouri. I like how when you emigrate to the West, you don't go to the big cities. You go straight to the Midwest somewhere.
I mean, from Middle East to Midwest. Where else is there to go?
Nicely done. Very nicely done. It's really nice to have you on the program. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course. I've been trying to find the right time for this. I'm glad that today worked out.
You know, you described yourself, you described chess as an obsession for you at a very young age, almost like a private world you said you could control. What was it about this game that hooked you as a little girl growing up in Tehran?
I think a big part of it was that it just felt like I didn't need to use words or I didn't need to use specific action. I could just use my mind. And there wasn't, when you're playing the game at that moment in time, there is no, when you're hooked, there's no outside world. There's no, what I'm gonna have for dinner. There is no, like hijab problem. There's no what I have to do for homework. So for those couple hours that I'm playing, or I guess I was playing, I'm just playing. I'm not thinking of other things. So it kind of felt like I was hyperfixating on it. Some might say it's ADHD, but
But it,
the way it
but
felt.
it was an escape for you, the same way somebody would like playing a video game or being hooked on some TV show or something like that. Yours was chess.
Yep, yep. Kind of felt like a very nice bubble.
It's funny because it's considered. I mean, it's sort of romanticized as a cerebral battlefield. You know, that this thing that for some people is almost like hard work. It's a heavy mind game. For someone who became a grandmaster before adulthood, was it ever just a game for you? I mean, was it, or did it always feel like something more than that?
I think for the longest time, it actually felt like just a game, not a career, or not something that I would pursue professionally, air quotes, because I mean, growing up, I did a lot of different things. Uh, like I was a kids TV host when I was in Iran because my mom taught me how to read and write by the time I was two and like 2.5, I finished first grade and I did a bunch of like demonstration on TV to encourage other kids to read and write. And when I was 4.5, I finished fourth grade material, but they wouldn't let me sit in fifth grade as a 5-year-old. So we had to improvise and like we just did a bunch of different activities and classes. And chess was the one that kind of felt more, I guess, maybe intellectually stimulating than the most was um, it just felt like a game. It felt like something else I was doing. But the more I had to kind of weed stuff out, I was still like doing my gymnastics and I was still doing my like chess and I was still doing school, but I had to like choose which ones to let go of and which ones to keep. So at that point, I think around when I want to say 13, maybe 14, I was already winning national championships and I was already competing for Iran's national team in women's. But I think the second time I won Asian Youth Championship is when I was like, huh, okay, well, maybe I could actually think of chess as something more than just fun.
But even when you're competing for the national team, and one would think, feeling the pressure of representing Iran and all of that, it was still just a game, or it started to turn into something else.
It felt like something that I would do to maybe nurture my mind
Wow.
because there wasn't as, I mean, I liked reading like the same way that I would stay up all nights and like read like a really cool mystery book to see how it ends. It kind of felt like that because it was something that I could keep going and I couldn't see the end, so I really liked it. but still the priority was my homeworks and my schooling.
Right.
And I remember like in Iran, we have this like Sampot program, the Nodet, Farzanagan, all that. So I ended up, I guess, matching into like Farzanagan for both like middle school and high school. So it was very demanding curriculum, and like a lot of this, like a lot of the math that I learned in middle school or like very early high school is what got me through SATs. So
I know you're close with your mom, and she's now joined you in the U.S. Does she play chess?
very limited. She kind of knows the pieces to move. She's more of like a um momager, like manages the tournaments, manages the schedule, manages like, okay, you need to be doing this at this time.
But
Rather
she doesn't
than
get involved in why did you move the rook there? What is your what was your strategy with that pawn? She doesn't start criticizing your game.
I don't, I think it's more like she would be there if I wanted to talk about it, but there's no like, oh, you played the bad move. Like maybe like these days with like engines, she could make like questions like, oh, like why didn't you choose this move or why didn't you choose that move? But it's not in like a criticizing way. It's just like for her to understand. But even maybe not even so for her to understand, but for me to understand better by explaining it. So I remember like a lot of the times when I was practicing chess in Iran, we had this like weird like giant orange table that we would sit on, and we would like she would help me put puzzles, but I would get bored of one puzzle because it was too much calculation. So then she had another puzzle ready from the books that was assigned to me by different coaches. So then I would kind of like switch back and forth between puzzles if I would get bored of one. So she was more of like, she wasn't like creating the puzzles, but she was helping me set it up, like keeping me on track and all of that. So yeah, I mean, it
You
worked
know,
out.
talking to you, it's clear that you're at the very least an A-type personality, and the orthodox wisdom is to say somebody who plays chess well, somebody who's a grandmaster, is probably super smart. Is that always true, or is that naive thinking that somebody who's good at chess must be smart?
I think there is some level of smart that's needed, but I think what matters more is that grit and perseverance, because it doesn't matter how smart you are, you need to be able to bounce back. And if you're somebody who's a genius, but you can't emotionally regulate yourself, you're playing like a tournament that has 2 rounds a day. If you accidents happen, you might mess up the first round of the day, and then you need to be able to get yourself back to be able to play the next game and play it well. So I think there is some level of intelligence that's needed, but as long as you are someone who wants to be there and who has the resources to be there, you can do it. I think the perseverance is the key.
What an interesting answer. It's not necessarily about intellectual ability. It's about fortitude. It's about needing and that makes sense. See, if you slip up, if you fail, and it fucks up your confidence, you're not going to be as good at the next game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the same thing in a lot of different aspects of life. I feel like perseverance is more important than being smart, because I feel like we have different types of smart too. Somebody could be extremely book smart but be really terrible with people, and nobody wants to give that person an opportunity. It doesn't matter how smart they are, because they're not pleasant to be around.
How are you with people?
Oh, people love me.
Despite your genius
Uh,
status, you're good with people.
no, I feel like I think I'm someone who gets shit done. And it's a very good quality for my friends, and they're really Um, I mean, I don't really pick up fights, but I'm someone who speaks my mind, so I'm not going to shy away from a conversation just because it's a difficult conversation. So some people don't like me, and I mean, that's life.
They say that good chess players have to think, 10 moves ahead. I actually always use this as a metaphor in life. I always say, you have to think 3 or 4 moves ahead when I'm talking to somebody, especially if I'm coaching a young person in media or music or something like that. Given that you must have that ability, do you think that being that kind of strategic mind made your eventual decision to leave Iran inevitable? I mean, in other words, I guess that's a long way of saying, did you see this as your future? Like, I'm going to eventually outgrow the restrictions of Iran and need to go to the West?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the plan all along. The plan was for me to not build a life in Iran because of the regime, unfortunately. But it was never, I didn't know for sure where I was going to end up. And I'll answer your question a different way too. Actually the interview that I had with Mizzou Medical School a couple years ago, they had like one of the interviewers had like a mini rapid fire questionnaire, and he asked me like, okay, um, if chess didn't exist, where would you be? Go. And I was like, jail. And he was like, what? And I was like, I mean, if chess didn't exist, I would probably still be in Iran, and I'm too opinionated to kind of be put a muzzle on. So I would get in trouble, as I already had a little bit here and there. So yeah, if chess didn't exist, if that bubble didn't exist, I don't know if I would be here right now.
That's so interesting because, and forgive me if I'm taking this metaphor too far, but in a chess game, it's strategic. It takes brilliance. It takes 10 moves ahead, but you need to play within the rules. Being a rebel, not wearing a hijab, saying that you would end up in jail, suggests that you don't play by the rules, or you're not willing to. How do we make sense of the chess player versus the person who would break the board?
I feel like even in chess, we have like some guide. I mean, obviously the laws are the laws. Like you can't jump around with a king, but within the realm of possibilities, even in the chess board, usually they want you to have like very safe kings, and like they want you to develop a certain way, and they want what works best in most cases is to, like, for example, don't attack too early and don't weaken your king. But a lot of the time that might be a right move. So you might just, grab the pawn that's right in front of the king or right around that king area and just start running with it. And yes, you do weaken your own king too, but I feel like it's the risk versus benefits that you would end up potentially bothering opponents way more than your own king would be bothered. So
when you talk about going to jail, you wrote this quite famously at in this op-ed piece in the New York Times in 2017. It was brave, I thought, blistering, beautifully written. And you said quite clearly in this, I want to quote you, "I blame the Islamic Republic of Iran." Do you still have that same amount of clarity today, or where are you a few years removed in terms of your anger and your at that point very visceral feeling of wanting to blame the regime in Iran for having to leave the country and play chess elsewhere?
I feel like it's really hard for anyone who's had to leave their country, their home country, to not blame something that happened that led to them leaving. And I think in most of us Iranians who live abroad cases, is the regime is the problem. Otherwise, it's not, I mean, it's not the Iran food or Iran people, it's the regime that's the problem. Like, if the regime was in a case that would actually care about its people and its country, as opposed to so many other things, then yes, I feel like none of us would want to leave and start new life somewhere else. So I think
are you still angry?
I don't know if I'm angry. I feel like it's I think it's more like I accepted it for what it is, and I'm kind of waiting for the change. I don't know when it would come. I thought that something could potentially come out of how much the Mahsa Amini's case brought attention to Iran. Civils. Sorry, there's no civil rights. Lack of human rights or women's rights. So I think a lot of us outside of Iran did have hopes for change, but it's sad to see that it didn't happen. It did kind of initiate and ignite a start, but
I mean, people say the goalposts keep moving. We're getting closer and closer
yes.
to. When we talked a few days ago, I hope I'm not betraying any confidence by mentioning this. You said that I said, you were pretty outspoken when you ended up having to basically be banned from playing for Iran and leave Iran, being exiled essentially, and that New York Times piece. And you said, I would have been more outspoken, but I was worried about my mom because my mom was
Yeah.
still in the country. What would you have said if your mom, if you didn't have that worry? I mean, you're more free to be outspoken now. What would you have said that you felt like you didn't say at that point? Today's edition of Roqe is brought to you in part by I Welcome. I Welcome is the one and only Iranian Canadian company in premium tour travel and limo transportation. I Welcome redefines every journey with a modern fleet and professional drivers, ensuring that whether you're enjoying a scenic city tour, traveling for business, or arriving in style at a special event, you experience unmatched comfort and reliability. With I Welcome, your ride becomes a luxurious extension of your lifestyle. I've had the pleasure of riding in one of the luxury cars that Amin and his team at I Welcome have in their fleet. And if you are anywhere in the Greater Toronto Area, you must use them for your travel needs. Hatsman. You find them at iwelcome.ca. Once again, that's iwelcome.ca.
I feel like specifically in my TEDx talk that I did 2 years after the New York Times one was still, I was not as outspoken as I wanted to be, because I remember I put a lot of anger and blame directly towards Iranian Chess Federation as opposed to Iranian government, just because I didn't feel confident enough that they wouldn't take it out on my mom, who was still in Iran. So I think what I would have said differently is that I would have tried to raise more awareness on what it is to actually grow up in Iran, what it is to, you know, be a woman in Iran, and how restricting it is, and everything that I feel like came out with Mahsa Amini's unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no situation. They just murdered her. So I feel like everything that the world started to learn about Iran after that, I would have done more to raise more awareness to what it is to, be in those situations. Because that hijab police or Gesh their shot or whatever, morality police, whatever they want to call it, those are terrifying, scary, wild, like it's something that shouldn't happen. And it's so hard to explain it to hear that, like, oh yeah, there's like some people, some group of like random government officials who would literally like accompany us to tournaments, in like a very small measure. There's like always like a hijabi woman who would follow us in tournaments, and they wouldn't care if the guys are like drinking or dancing or whatever. They would only, care about the girls. And like I remember, I know I've talked about this in some of the interviews, that they would like tell me how like my jeans are too tight. And then one of the last tournaments I played for Iran, I was like, okay, if you want me to continue this tournament, you're going to stop talking to me, or I'm not going to play. And I had enough power at that point to do that, because I had won Asian Youth Championship like 3 times at that point. So they wanted, if I was like, if you want me to play and win the medal, don't bother me, don't talk to me.
So in that, sorry, go ahead. You go finish.
Yeah, I mean, my mother did that in my behalf, because I told my mom I'm not going to play if they talk to me, because I'm there to play a tournament. I'm not there to be a fashion model for them. And I was still abiding by their, rules of like wearing the hijab and wearing like the clothing that they wanted me to, because I was representing the country and I was there with the national team. But like that was a very small scale experience that I had. And I think maybe a year after that is the one that's like the Gash their shot would kind of, I'm actually like remembering a lot of things that I haven't
I haven't heard this story. In fact, I haven't heard the story of exactly the competition that you end up afterwards being banned for not wearing a hijab. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're actually not representing the country. You're representing yourself.
Yes,
and yet you get banned by Iran. And that's I mean, it must have been devastating. But tell me about your thinking at that point. Did you even think that would happen? And when it did, was it more of a rupture or a revelation? About where you were going to be at.
I mean, obviously it was very scary because, okay, let me walk back through it. So the tournament in Gibraltar that I played, I was there with my mom and my brother, and um, for years until then, when I was playing tournaments outside of the country without the national team, I was wearing however I wanted to wear. If I wanted to wear a long skirt, I would. If I wanted to wear a short skirt, I would. It's like nobody's business. Um, so I remember this tournament wasn't any different. So this was in 2017, January, maybe February. And I remember that I was doing what I usually do, and there were other members of like other Iranian chess players who were there as well, and they were also not necessarily wearing by the dress code. I think they were kind of doing it for the cameras, but I wasn't even bothering to do it for the cameras because I didn't think it would be authentic to my authentic self. And in the hindsight, it might have been stupid or brave or whatever, but to me, it just felt wrong to just do it for the cameras. So I remember that I was just wearing what I wanted to, which was basically like, shirt, pants, no scarf, hair open, like something like this. And they, I ended up getting, and I was actually living in Spain. I had a temporary Spanish residency, and I hadn't been playing for Iran for at least 2 years at that point. So they knew of my decision that I'm not going to be playing for them because of the problems that were rising. Um, and so we learned this through social media. I remember a couple weeks after that, not even during that tournament, we were traveling to Austria. I remember I got to Austria and there was a tournament that I was starting to play, and I was in the hotel that I had. I was waiting for my mom and my brother to get there, and I was just like scrolling to Instagram, and I saw like hundreds or thousands of follow requests, and like a lot of my school, like high school friends messaging me on like different apps and social medias asking me if I'm okay, if I'm in this country. And I was like, what? So that's how I learned what's been going on. And people started to send me like links of these interviews that like the chess officials in Iran gave, and followed by news outlets that picked up the story. So it was really scary. And I couldn't really play that tournament anymore. So we decided that it might be best, because they weren't only targeting me, they were also targeting my brother. So I ended
Does he
up
play, or
going.
they were just targeting you because of his connection to
No,
you?
he also plays. He's more professional than I am right now. And he represents UK now. He was 15, and he was paired against the Israeli opponents, and he played because there's no specific laws that prohibits us. There's just all these clouds and speculations of don't play because Israel doesn't exist. And so they were targeting both of us in that sense. And I had at least a couple more months of temporary residency lined up in Spain, but he didn't. And I remember I went back to Spain, and I remember some of the Spanish chess players were helping me go through different offices because I didn't speak Spanish as I should have. And we were trying to see like, should I try to do like refugee for for my mom and my brother or myself, or should I just kind of see where it goes? So I had to do a lot of different steps in a matter of week to just determine where we're going to be, because none of us felt safe to go back after that.
Right.
But yeah.
What about your contemporaries? My mind casts back to an interview with Salah Gholami here, not that long ago, a few months back. He's the boxer who would end up leaving Iran, leaving the national Iranian team. He was the captain of the national Iranian team, and now he's in Canada. And he left for, not because he didn't wear a hijab, but for similar kind of decisions that he couldn't work under those rules anymore. He couldn't live without those rules. And he talked about the other people on his team, some of the other boxers, and it was quite sad, this idea that some of them didn't want him to leave or didn't think he should, and thought he just fall in line with what the authorities in Iran expect. But many of them applauded him and were secretly sending him messages and wanted to do what he did, and maybe didn't have the strength or the resources or the ability to leave in the same way. Did you hear from some of your chess contemporaries inside Iran? Do you still hear from them? Did they high five you from afar, or were they pissed that you left? What did you hear from them?
I don't actually remember anyone directly having thanked or hated me in that sense. But I think soon after, maybe in a matter of a year or two, most of the other members of the Iranian national team started to kind of skedaddle for different countries. I think the one that I know that left right after was Mitra Hejazipur. I think she went to France pretty much maybe in a matter of a year or two after that. And then I think there were a couple others too. Sarah Sadat Khademasharieh, she changed to Spain maybe about a year or two ago. And I think Atusa Prakash also switched to US a couple years ago. So I think the last one, Atusa, I think she kind of phased it out. She wasn't, it wasn't more of a stance. She was more like, I'm living here, I'm representing US from now on. But I think the rest of us, I think also there was another one. I remember she's Ghazal Hakimi Faris, she also switched to Switzerland. So there was a like, we all kind of got scattered around. But, and I think the other famous case, Shohr Hebayat, that she's the arbiter, that she lives in the UK now. And she's very active in the field of arbitering chess, which is, I mean, pretty tricky. You can't, you need to have a very clear head to do that. And I think she's the one that I've heard a little from here and there, positively. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't really get positive or negative feedbacks at the time.
But it's quite devastating as you read off all those names, and you're talking about a literal brain drain of top talent, female talent leaving Iran one by one. How do you process that emotionally?
I think the alternative is if we would have stayed, we wouldn't have been authentic to ourselves or the people of the country, and I feel like we would have been used as pawns in the regime. So it's not ideal, but this way at least I can sit here and talk to you. As opposed to if I was in Iran, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. Or if I did it, I don't think you would have heard from me after that,
Right.
unless Evan has some Wi-Fi that they would let me
Dorsa,
use.
you said that exile isn't just about leaving a place, it's about being pushed out of a piece of yourself.
Mhm.
What
Yep.
what part of you still feels Iranian in the truest and deepest sense, and what part of you do you feel has been pushed out of yourself?
Let me answer part of it this way. As soon as I moved to US for undergrad, I think after first semester, I got a cat, and its name is Pishi. And I talk mostly in Farsi with it. And I think he's finally learned the idea of budu budu. When I say it, he runs away or runs towards me.
Right.
So I think to me,
He
like,
he can now sing an Ed Sheeran song too, because we've got the
we can try.
he can he's probably learned Azizam, so yeah.
So I feel like, I mean, it I I don't want to feel like they took something away from me, because that's a dangerous game to play. And if I start thinking about all the things that the Iranian regime takes away, I don't want to give them the power to think they took a part of me away, even though they probably did, but I'm just going to ignore it for now and I'm going to deny it. I think in a way I think there was an interview a couple years ago that I just thought of. There was this hijabi woman that was sitting, like Chowdhury, that was sitting, and then she was saying like, if you don't like the country, pack up and leave.
Yep.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you remember that
Yeah, I
too,
do.
but
Yeah,
that was like,
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, she's not alone. People have all kinds of opinions. But yes, go ahead. Where were you going to go with that?
And my point is like, the it. I don't think Iranian government as a whole thinks like that. I think it's more about power and control rather than if you don't like it, just leave, because they make it extremely hard for us to leave. Even if you want to leave, and even if you leave, where are you going to go? And like, even if you leave, then can you go back? Can you go back to visit? It's all these like problems.
There's also those who say you should stay and fight the good fight. Do you feel any level of I don't know, guilt that you should have stayed and been with the people on the streets during the Women Life Freedom uprising, for example? Is that something that you carry as a weight?
I think this idea of survival guilt is very real. And I also think it's one of those other problems that if I let it get to me too much, then I'm not going to be able to, get up and do anything that would benefit anyone. And yeah, a part of me, and I'm assuming anyone else who left, wishes that we could be there and do what's necessary. But I feel like you can't do as much on foot against a regime that has, snipers on roofs and would just jail you for
Yeah.
no reason and without any due process. As to me right now, it feels more beneficial to be outside of the country and try to raise more awareness and hopefully get more people involved rather than be inside of the
You
country.
probably hear from girls in Iran. There's a certain level of dissonance there. I mean, you're thriving in the U.S., Ivy League school, medicine, young women back home still fighting for the right to be seen or to speak. How do you hold that dissonance, and what do you say to them?
I think it's very true that education is a very powerful tool. And a lot of the people that I knew when I went to high school or middle school with, they did their university back in Iran in different universities, but most of them are in different countries now, US, Canada, and I see them on social media that they're thriving on different parts of the world. And yes, it is heartbreaking, but if you have the option to be extremely educated, do it. Because education is power. Knowledge is power that you're going to be able to use at some point
Hmm.
to help yourself and help those around you. And I feel like a lot of us in this case, the way that it feels is like you're in a plane that's crashing and you're trying to figure out how to help everybody else, but you need to be able to put that mask on for yourself first to be able to breathe. Then you can help everybody else breathe too. But I feel
Yeah.
like for a lot of people that I know that left, kind of feels like that.
Well,
But
even that, it's an interesting metaphor because it's a little bit funny too when they say, if something happens, put the mask on yourself first, not the kid. which on the face of it sounds, well, what do you mean, abandon the kid for yourself? But they're saying make sure, as you've said, that you're able to survive to be able to help the kid next to you, who's inevitably not going to be able to survive, whether they have the mask or not, if you're not there for them. You once said, when I left Iran, I had to relearn who I was.
Mhm.
Where are you at on that part of your journey? Do you feel like you have relearned now? And what did the U.S. teach you?
I think I've grown more resilience and more outspoken, and I feel like I understand the gravity of political situation that even US is having right now more because of my background of growing up in Iran. Um, but I feel like I'm obviously still learning who I am day by day and experiences that I go through. It still feels somewhat triggering and traumatizing to have gone through a lot of the other things I went through in Iran. Um, I'm mainly thinking of some of the encounters I've had with the hijab police of being threatened that they're going to cut my hair if it's sticking out of the scarf, or they're going to throw acid at me if they see me again in the street with the lipstick. So, all these very casual, fun things. Um, but yeah, it's still very triggering. So I don't think, I think I'm still learning and I'm still improving, but I think I at least have one foot on the ground now, and we can decide about the other foot later.
When you're playing chess, you have to calculate risk, right? You have to kind
Yep.
of read your opponents, guard your queen. Uh, have you learned to live more unpredictably, to live without calculating that risk?
I think I go back and forth because sometimes, yes, I try to be more carefree and just live in the moment, but sometimes also I can't turn my brain off to not overcalculate. Um, which, it can be pretty helpful in medicine too, but it can be very devastating in personal life. So you win some, you lose some.
Tell me about the decision to pivot to medicine because I feel like maybe this is a very Western way of thinking, but definitely, I think there would be people in the States who would say, "Hey, kid, you can monetize, you can maximize, you can exploit this chess career that you have and make some big dough. What are you running around going to medical school for?" So I actually applaud the courage to pivot that way. But I'm also curious about it. Does chess have too much baggage associated with it, emotional or otherwise, for you, and it felt like you needed to go in another direction?
To a degree, yes, because when all of this was happening, nobody protected me and my brother because, I feel like I've seen similar-ish cases happen in soccer, and FIFA seems to protect the players and try to like boycott a country or something like that. But FIDE for us did not, I could not care less. I did receive a lot of support from St. Louis Chess Club, and it's a pretty big club. It's a very prominent club. And I mean, I kind of got a full ride from both undergrad and medical school, and also got my green card citizenship, all of that because of St. Louis Chess Club, and by extension, U.S. Chess Federation. But nobody at the moment protected us, and it kind of felt very betraying that I'm part of this organization, I'm part of this world organization, FIDE, and they're not going to stand up for me, that there's this injustice being done, and everybody agrees this is injustice, and they don't even bother to put out a statement or contact us or anything like that, and we're both teenagers. If you can't protect us, then what are you doing, you know so to a sense, yeah, it was very betraying. That sense of betrayal was very real, and it still is a little bit. um but I'm still very involved in chess. We won multiple national championships when I was at SLU. We won multiple national championships now that I'm at Mizzou. I still teach very much. I have actually two students today in a couple hours. So I'm still heavily involved in chess, but
It's chess like I don't know, playing like I'm a drummer, but when I was on tour as a drummer, I was my chops were great, and I feel like if I don't play for a few weeks or something like that, I lose what I had. Is chess like that, or can you just pick it up and be at game form, at championship form whenever you want?
no, you're going to be rusty. So, one of the reasons that I teach as much as I do is to stay involved and to still stay somewhat sharp so that when I do play a very like serious professional tournament, then I don't need to spend months preparing for it. But yes, there are like openings that are getting updated or I guess outdated every couple of months. So you need to be on top of your game if you're playing championship matches. So, yeah.
What kind of a doctor do you want to be?
So I think I was telling you that last time we spoke, I went into medical school thinking surgery, and then I kind of realized that it's a little too much of a boys' club for me, and I don't think I have the brain power to try to reform the culture, and it's too much work. So I think what has made the most sense to me and the happiest I felt when I was on service has been psychiatry, and especially child psych, because I feel like children are one of the most vulnerable when it comes to healthcare because they can't decide for themselves. They don't have the resources, they don't have the options. And I feel like in psychiatry, especially the way I've seen it, when it comes to child psych, that can make a very um, lifelong impact if there is early intervention. So I really like that so far, but still got a couple years to decide.
It's kind of the inevitable question, but do you see parallels between medicine and chess? Do you somehow you oh that you do?
Oh, yes.
Like what?
Yeah. Um, I think one of the most basic things to think about that we do in medicine every day in any service is the idea of coming up with a differential diagnosis. So in chess, we do candidate moves. So when you're calculating in a position, you have like a couple of ideas that you like, and you try to decide between them or weed some out or, rule some up, rule some down. It's the same thing in medicine. Based on patients' presentations, history, labs, imaging, everything, you end up deciding what are the most likely problems and which one is going to be more serious. Same way in chess, you would try to decide which one is going to be more tactical, which one is going to be more scary for your king. But I think that's the easiest one I could think of. But give me an hour or two, I'll keep listing them out.
You still sound like a chess player when you're talking about medicine. Well, I'm sure everybody's asked you about this, and I know they've made the comparisons. But when it comes to the Queen's Gambit, since so many people watched it, did it did it feel real to you? I mean, did you watch that the portrayal of that young woman and go, "Wow, that was me"?
Yeah, I did. I remember actually right after that, I had an interview with uh, something. It was a British magazine. I'm forgetting. It was a, and oh, there was also one in US too. That was the People's Magazine that we talked about all these sexism and misogyny in chess, which is obviously getting better because there's more discussion about it. But it's still present, unfortunately. And I think Queen's Gambit did a good job of um, bringing more attention to it and awareness to it that people.
Like were you emotional while you were watching it? Were you like, "Oh my God, this is triggering me, bringing me back"? Any of that?
I remember I was having some chips and yogurt and watching it, so I was pretty happy with the food that I've.
Okay. I think that's no. I wasn't that. It didn't affect me that much emotionally. You're very tough. Is that because you're an analytical thinker? Like you're not, you're very, I mean, you're clear. I like the way you answer questions very specifically. Is it too much for me to be ascribing chess qualities to you, to be seeing that in you? Or do you think
No,
that
it's refreshing. I'll take it.
that's,
It's interesting to just see an outside perspective too.
yeah. Are you a decisive person in life?
Usually a little too much.
Ah, so you go to a restaurant and you know what you want. You kind of you think the 10 chess moves ahead. If I get the milkshake, I'm not going to get this, and this is my. I mean, are you OCD?
No, I feel like if anything, I can be a little too direct. But for example, like if there's something I don't understand in the menu, I'll just ask, "Hey, can you explain this?" Whereas what I've seen most of, like if I go out to a friend, they're more shy and they'll just go for the safe option. But if there's something I want and I don't understand, I'm not afraid to sound like an idiot, which is a good quality. It has come in handy in my rotations right now. I've most of the people that I've worked with, they all say I ask good questions. I'm not afraid to sound like an idiot, which I mean, it's fair. I'd rather take chances and learn and do better next time than just shy away and stay in a corner and just shut my mouth because I feel like I didn't come half a world away just to shut up.
Hmm.
But
Do the people, do your classmates in med school in Missouri know that they're in a class with an international chess star?
yeah, I remember in orientation, a couple of them had figured it out already and they were talking a lot about it. And it was, I mean, it's good. I really like most of my classmates. I think I have a pretty solid friends group. Actually, like we were moving this weekend and I had multiple of my friends help me with their ginormous cars to transport things around. So, I feel like I've made some good friends here, classmate or not, but I think that I've actually run into a couple of the people that I worked under, like with residents or attendings that they know of me because of chess. I actually remember there was one in anesthesiology that he saw my name and we only worked for like 3 hours together and he was like, "Oh, your name is so familiar. Do you do anything? Do you play chess?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he knew about me and it was pretty cool. Um,
Well, I mean,
And
since you opened the door there, I'm, and if this is too weird or personal, you don't have to answer. But how do you date when if you're if you're a chess master? Like, does the person that you're interested in also have to know how to play chess? And then they're going to be shittier than you, and then they're going to feel bad and intimidated, and then you're going to have to play badly to make them feel okay. And I mean, what happens?
no, I feel like it's. I mean, I think that's a big discussion among the female physicians that I know of, anyways, that like the more educated you become, you want someone equal intellectually, and your dating pool gets smaller, which is very fair. But that's not the same for men. Different topics, though. But for me, no, it doesn't. The less chess knowledge, the better. Like if you know how the pieces move, great. But if
Right.
not, fine too. But I feel like, yeah, the idea of intimidation is very real. And I remember, I think I said that in my TEDx talk too, that like if I'm not interested in guys who are intimidated by my success, which is true. I think one of the like last conversations slash maybe dates I've had with someone, he did say something like, "Oh yeah, I think you're too intimidating," and I was like, "Well,
That was that
sure,
you. But
put myself in a
you put an
box,
X on his name. That's it, right? He's out. He's
bust it out."
you echraj to that. Well, I mean, I think the person should just be like, I don't know what that is, chess. I would stay away from even like telling them telling you they know how to play, because it would be kind of scary. But it doesn't mean they have to be intimidated in other parts of life. And I think you're right. You need to find somebody who's strong and can handle all of that that comes with your fame.
My cat can handle me. He's the best.
What's that?
He's so My cat can handle me best.
Is that
He's so
Pishi? Is Pishi?
he's super bossy. He wakes me up at 5:30 just because he wants to go outside and play with birds.
Right.
So
Doesn't give a shit about the chess championships. He's like, Mom, where's my food?
yes.
I've got stuff to do. A final question to you. I mean, I if you can detach any of the silly sort of romanticism that we have about like, let's meet next year in Tehran at a cafe when it's free, that type of thing, because it's unlikely it's going to be that easy. But if things were to change, do you see yourself representing Iran in chess ever again?
Depends on the change. Because if there's just, like silly promises, then no, because it's going to be the same problem. But if the human rights and especially women rights are actually back to what it was pre-regime, then yeah, I think I don't know any Iranians who's left their country that wouldn't want to go back and not necessarily try the cafes, but to at least, remember what it felt like. I remember one of my fond memories from Iran was there was this we would take like day trips sometimes over the weekend on Fridays to Shomal and back, and the like being able to um, go to the sea was one of my favorite memories as a kid. But then when I became around 9, then that was also unsafe because there would be like hijab polices in there that would tell me I'm a girl, I can't go in the water. And all those fun things. I tried dressing up as a boy too growing up. That didn't really work out. But yeah, I think yeah, if the human rights and women's rights are reinstated, it would be a pleasure to go back.
Dorsa, it's really great to get to talk to you. I hope we can do it in person. Come bring your chess tour to Canada at some point. But in the meantime, great to get to do it this way. And thank you so much for making the time.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure being here.
Merci. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Respect.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to Dorsa Derakhshani for joining us for this episode of Roqe. Truly the mind of a chess master, I think. I think in speaking to her, you can tell that analytical mind, that mind that can think 10 steps ahead is evident there. Thanks to her. Thank you. Thanks, first of all, to the amazing team who put this show together for this week. This is full time. Thanks to the team, Super Parisa, Savvy, Roham, Tina, the photo and video queen, Ghazaleh, the OG. Special thanks to Smart Pega, Talented Anihita, Solid Samin, and The Methodical Kaveh. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. So, on any of our platforms that you listen to us, if you don't already subscribe, press that subscribe button. It makes a difference to us to have you there as subscribers. Also, head to our website, roqemedia.com, where all of our videos, our former shows, our episodes, our guests, everything is there. roqemedia.com. You can find us on Instagram at roqemedia. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Gomeshi. And as ever, Mizun Bashi.